Thank you so much, Nomsa, for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
New Year, and Happy New Year to you too.
Thank you. So do we have reason to celebrate the 78.2 pass rate?
I don't think we have a reason as such to celebrate the performance that we've seen now. But what I would like to say, first of all, is that, I would like to congratulate all the learners that have passed. We've seen the excitement. They've worked very hard, and really they deserve, the whatever pass mark that they've received. And also we should rejoice with them, as well as Gauteng. We want to congratulate them for being number one in the country.
Yes, quite a feat.
But, we need to also be concerned about the number of learners that came into the system in 2007. So it's the same cohort that has just completed their matric in 2018. And we find out that we recently, after the results, we found out that 52% of those learners, they've actually dropped, they're actually falling off the system. And so we need to ask ourselves what is happening to the system. Do we celebrate when we know that 52% of our learners have actually fallen off and haven't sat on the matric examination? And also we don't have concrete evidence of where they are, what they are doing, and whether they are at TVET colleges or they are sitting at home. So we don't have those kind of figures. So it's very difficult for us to say definitely where these learners are. So it is a concern to us. So what we have done as well this morning is that we looked at the figures as they were given by the minister yesterday, and we looked at the number of learners that we had in 2010 and as compared to the number of learners that we have who actually sat for the exams and passed. From that, we're able to calculate the average and realize only 37.6% of learners have really passed if we work it like that. It is our responsibility to ensure that our learners go through the system. And we have to be very careful and mindful of the fact that there are provinces that use what we call culling, which basically discourage learners to go through if they find those learners to be weak. And what we have done in the Western Cape is that we have ensured that our learners, they stay within a system. When you looked at our retention rate, it was about 65% in the Western Cape, much higher than all the other provinces who were hardly around about 50% when it comes to our retention. And, if we know within a system we will lose a certain number of learners as the cohort goes from one grade to the next. But 50% should be a real concern to all of us.
And you, of course, talk about the fact that in the Western Cape there's a high retention rate, but one can't ignore the fact that over the years the Western Cape appears to be dropping. Is the DA not concerned?
We are concerned, but, would you prefer to be number one on the list of provinces that are doing well with learners that are dropping out of the system? Or would you rather be the last one of the provinces to perform, but ensuring that all your learners to go through the system and have the numbers that show that a majority of your learners to go through the system and they complete their matric? I think that we as a Democratic Alliance, we are more proud of the fact that we keep our learners within the system and prevent them from dropping out of the entire system and looking at the retention. The minister, there was a time that she actually said she will be looking at the retention rate, and when she announces the examinations, which we expected her to do that yesterday, she didn't mention it even once, the retention. Why are we shying away from that? Why are we burying our heads into the sand when we're supposed to really challenge ourselves and look at this issue head on and be able to say what solutions can we bring in to ensure that our learners, they don't drop? And most importantly, we need to find out what the reason why our learners dropping out of the system. And the other issue that we also would like to see as a Democratic Alliance is that our education system shouldn't only be measured on the pass rate that you have only passed. It should be measured on what is called the inclusive basket criteria. I don't know if you're aware of that. Basically what it does, it measures the number of bachelors, it measures the number of learners who have received mathematics and science, it measures the number of learners who've got distinctions. So that will give us the quality of our learners. And what the minister has done for the last 2 years, she has unofficially officially declared the inclusive basket criteria to say which provinces have done well on that. That is very crucial because it really speaks to exactly what we're talking about in the Western Cape, which is the quality of education, the type of learners that we're getting when they complete the examination of matric.
And I mean, looking back at the press conference yesterday, the DG during his technical briefing actually did touch on the fact that they are concerned around the fact that a lot of pupils who start grade 1 are not completing the matric. And they call, they name quite a number of problems. They say one of them is gangsterism, and that is, where some pupils tend to go towards, and unfortunately that then becomes out of their control. Do you agree with that, or do you think that there is something else that the department can be doing here to actually ensure that these people stay in school?
I have to agree. The socio-economic issues, they are also just as important because they play a role in actually hindering sometimes the learners to be able to succeed. We're talking about poverty, and you just mentioned gangsterism. But then we have other issues within the department itself, within the system itself. In KZN, there are still learners. Actually, in various provinces, there are learners that have to walk for 10 kilometers to go to school. We went to Northwest recently as doing oversight. When the learners were supposed to write, we just went for an oversight as a committee to check the readiness for the learners to do their matric examination. And we find many of those schools, all of them actually, on that list, they didn't receive their textbooks. So, those are the challenges. They didn't have, some of them they didn't have desks. Majority of the schools, they didn't have adequate number of desks and chairs. And also, we introduced technical subjects now, but we don't have the syllabus, or even not only the syllabus, but also the technical textbooks that they were supposed to have received. So, with the issue of teachers, as much as we have seen that there are learners that are able to excel within the system, despite all those challenges, there are learners that come from poverty-stricken backgrounds, like from households that are having problems like those. But then we see them doing very well. So despite that, we still, on our side, we have teachers that are not really up to the standard. As much as we have teachers that are doing well, I have to say, but there are teachers that are really not up to standard. We are unable to provide the learners the type of education that.
And unfortunately, we're almost out of time. I just have to come in there. One of the biggest issues is, of course, the issue of inclusivity. And we've seen the Gauteng Education MEC Banyaza Lesufi saying that, I'm sure you've seen in the soundbite, that they should write one exam because teachers are not trained separately. Do you agree with that? That there shouldn't be IEB exams and, of course, the National Senior Certificate exams. There should be one exam. Do you agree with that?
I don't think South Africans will really agree with that because, we are a democratic country, and I think people have a right to choose the type of education that they want for their children. And if you can afford it, why not? Let's give the people the privilege to be able to choose the type of education that they want for their learners.
Well, thank you so much for putting us in the picture and of course, making everything possible that you get to this interview. We appreciate that. That was the DA's Basic Education Shadow Minister, Nomsa Tarabela Machesi, who was with us in studio.